Okay, fellow Rotarians, are we all sitting comfortably? Yes. Some still standing up. If you'd like to take your seats, please, so that we can move on to our final part of this wonderful weekend. Gordon, you can come off mute now. So the technology's working. Fingers crossed, everybody. It carries on working, because we're really privileged and honoured now to have with us on the screen, live from Chicago. It was to be in an airport lounge, but he's made it to his hotel, so that's brilliant news. And as long as he doesn't fall asleep and loll into the bed behind him, we'll be fine. But Gordon, welcome to the Central Eastern England multi-district pets. And we're face to face, which is a fantastic achievement. And hopefully you can see on one of the images there the view of the room. And we've got around about 100 people in here, and all eager and keen to talk and listen to with you. And I've got on my right here Chris Davies. Chris is going to be the question master, as we've done in the past with you. So that all works very well. So, fellow Rotarians, let me introduce to you Gordon McInally, our RI President-elect from our own lands here. And well, I've known Gordon for many, many years now, and I know he's going to keep you well informed and be an excellent speaker for you right now. So Gordon, over to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, and greetings everybody from Chicago. It's great to be with you this morning for me, the early afternoon for you, of course. I had hoped to be able to greet you from One Rotary Centre, our world headquarters building, but it is actually only 6:35 a.m. here. So I hope you don't mind me still being in my hotel room. I promise I am fully dressed, even the bits out of camera shot. They tell me, interestingly, my Rotary security pass gives me 24/7 access to One Rotary Centre. But so far I haven't tried it out of hours, and I didn't want to end up speaking to you from the pavement, or should I say the sidewalk, outside the front doors if it didn't work. Dennis, thank you for that very too generous introduction. You're very kind. I have to say, even 5 months down the line, there is still a certain surreal quality about being introduced as the president-elect or the president nominee of Rotary International. I don't know if any of you remember a comedy film, The Pope Must Die, from the 1990s, starring my fellow Scot, Robbie Coltrane. Now, Robbie Coltrane is probably much better known to you as Hagrid from the Harry Potter films, but in this comedy, he played a local priest in a small village in the very north of Italy when, by some slip of a pen at a papal conclave in the Vatican, he was made Pope. And I must confess, over the past few months, in the wee small hours of the morning, I have often wondered if a similar slip of the pen might have taken place at Rotary International last August at the nominating committee for RI President. In the event, there was a happy ending to the film, and Robbie Coltrane made a good job of being Pope. And of course, my hope is that there is a similar happy ending and I can make a good job of being your RI President. I guess we'll know the answer to that question in 2.5 years' time, but we might even know the answer to it in 20 minutes' time. But before I go any further, can I take this opportunity to thank the districts represented here today for their foresight and their courage in establishing multi-district pets in Great Britain and Ireland last year, and for encouraging so many other districts to cluster together and run multi-district pets this year. I know that your cluster has also supplied great support for all the other groups who've gone down the multi-district path. And Wendy Ford, Anne Geimer, Leslie Sully and Dave Ford, you have all been amazing. So thank you very much. I remember first floating the idea of multi-district pets as I left the RI Board of Directors 12 years ago, having seen how successful they were in other parts of the world. I suppose it just goes to show that Rotary wheels don't always move very quickly, but good things do come to those that wait. So let's get on with it. I'm conscious I stand between you and your trips back home. I want to focus my remarks today on two concepts so important to the times in which we're living: change and peace. So let's begin with change. I'm a great believer in the fact that it is within the districts and especially our clubs that the work of Rotary is done. The clubs are the bedrock of Rotary. And so I hope that this PETS event has helped you prepare to become the very best leaders you can be. Opportunities like the one you're giving me today are great for knowledge and experience sharing. And as I'll mention shortly, I've been in your shoes before, and I'm only too happy to share with you what I've learned along the way. Whilst it would be very easy to simply tell you to do things just the way I did, the truth is that what's best for Rotary is for you to lead your way, suiting the times when you are leading in the best way that you can. By being the best leader you can be, you will inspire others to follow you in leadership. And by making your clubs the best clubs they can be, you will inspire others to join Rotary, giving them the opportunities we have all enjoyed and allowing Rotary to do even more, especially at a time when there has probably never been more need for Rotary and for what it stands for. Every club is different and every time is different. I was a 33-year-old dentist, eager to change the world when I became a club president. Rotary was facing challenges even then, but in those days, clubs were highly resistant to change. I brought my first speech as club president to a rousing conclusion, and I unfurled a banner made by my young daughters that said, "Just do it." Well, I'm afraid the Rotary Club of South Queensferry wasn't quite ready to just do it back then. And I think at that moment, the members were wondering just exactly what they had landed themselves with as their club president. I think they would have prepared a tasteful placard that read, "Steady as she goes," or maybe "Don't rock the boat." And I think it's fair to say that there aren't many clubs left in the world today looking to embrace inaction. Given the state of the world today, change is a given. And for this, I envy you. You're rising to a position of leadership at a time when change is a necessity. Without change, the future of Rotary, perhaps even the future of the world, could be bleak. Now, change can be daunting, but it can also be exciting and it can be energizing. So embrace it, thrive on it, because it must happen, and it must happen now before it's too late. The phrase "build back better" has been used by many of the world's governments recently to describe how things might look as we exit the pandemic. In fact, I think next to "you're on mute," it's probably one of the most commonly used phrases we have heard during the last 2 years. But as far as Rotary is concerned, it shouldn't be a question of building back better, but rather of moving forward better. Building back implies a return to the way things were, and I don't see that as an option. We need to learn from our collective experiences during the COVID pandemic and take Rotary forward, because the world will not stand still for us. It would be a tragedy if we don't learn from the past 24 months and move forward. A tragedy and a travesty. We owe more than that to those who have gone before us. And there's another group we owe it to as well. I don't need to remind you that over 6 million people worldwide have died from the COVID-19 virus. These people were mothers, they were fathers, they were husbands, they were wives, they were brothers, they were sisters, and in many cases, they were our fellow Rotarians. Surely there must be a better legacy for each and every one of them, for us simply to go back to doing things the way we were before all this happened. So what of the future? There's no argument. Our communities and our world are in need of serious rebuilding, reforming, and reshaping. And it's we, Rotary members, who are best positioned to lead that process. This is who we are. It's what we do. We were built for this. When the world needed to rebuild from World War I and the Spanish influenza pandemic, Rotary was there. And when the world had to completely reassemble after the devastation of World War II, it was Rotary that helped build the institutions that aided the recovery and built positive peace. But of course, to carry out a new rebuilding, we need strong Rotary clubs. And that is where you come in. This pandemic has given us a unique chance to draw a line in the sand and review our entire method of operating. And I firmly believe that as we navigate out of it, there are many, many ways we can change for the better and strengthen our clubs, strengthen that bedrock. We've got what is probably a one-off chance just now to engage with people who during the pandemic have embraced the concept of volunteer service and have them join us to allow them to continue giving service. We're also fortunate that there is now so much opportunity to look at club models that don't need to be bound by style of meeting or by geography or by suitability of a venue. In addition to helping us re-engage with our existing members, this will allow us to engage with a whole new and different audience. An audience that maybe doesn't want to meet every week. An audience that maybe doesn't want to dine. An audience that maybe doesn't want to meet face-to-face at all, but which would rather meet in a manner that suits them. An audience that wants to do things and be people of action, rather than simply meet for meeting's sakes. Rotary clubs, groups, call them what you will, should exist everywhere in a style to suit everyone who has the desire to be part of us and help us do good in the world. And that is why I envy you, as you have the power to use the flexibility available to grow Rotary in your clubs and in your neighbourhoods, and in doing so, give more service to those who need us. It's all about caring. We want to care for our communities, but to do that, we need to care for our members, new and existing, because only by caring for each other can we care for the world. Now, one special opportunity I would dearly like us to take in the post-pandemic world is the opportunity to work better together. I've always been a great advocate of continuity in Rotary, and I've tried to practice that at every level of Rotary leadership, be it at club or district or here within Great Britain and Ireland. I believe passionately in the concept of Rotary's years, plural, where there is a seamless transition between leaders rather than the concept of my year, singular, where one individual takes us in one direction, only for other individuals to take us in different directions in subsequent years, before we often end up right back where we started, where individuals will not embark on any initiatives that don't complete in their year, because they're worried they won't get the credit for it. Waldo Emerson, the 19th century American philosopher, said, "There is no limit to what can be achieved if it doesn't matter who gets the credit." And I agree with him. I'm not bothered who gets credit for something, as long as that something is worthwhile and is done properly. And accordingly, I'm already working with President-elect Jennifer and look forward to continuing to do so with my successor whenever he or she is identified, in a spirit of true continuity that sees Rotary move forward on a straight and steady course towards an ever better future. And I would urge you to do the same in your clubs. So we're in a great time of change and a time of great opportunity within Rotary. But what about the world around us? We are in a great time of turmoil in the world, one where Rotary's historic commitment to building and fostering peace is being challenged like never before. And that's why I think we need a renewed focus on peace within Rotary. Peace is something that is in our very DNA, and it's something that is at the forefront of my mind, and I'm sure of your minds too at this time. Like me, you must have been horrified by the terrible news coming out of Eastern Europe regarding the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the ramifications of such an outrage. What has society become that sees frightened, defenseless children cowering in dark, dank corners of a Kyiv subway station while the horrors of war play out above them? How broken is our world that a children's and maternity hospital can see bombs rain down on it from the sky, with the loss of many innocent lives, as we saw in Mariupol, and it continues in cities across that country. All of us have seen these scenes of the theatre that was targeted and bombed, a place where children were seeking refuge. The word genocide has been used, and I don't believe that to be too strong a description of what we're witnessing. We live in a time of unprecedented technological advances, but sadly, we also live in a time of destruction and human suffering too. And as we're seeing with our own eyes, peace is such a fragile construct. Rotary, with all its global reach, must help the world live together in peace and friendship and love if we're to leave a proper legacy for our children and our children's children. Humanity has grown up scientifically and technologically, and now we need to grow up even more by pointing the whole human race beyond the petty divisions of nepotism, race, and creed. Too many people in this world have experienced the atrocities of war and terrorism. But thankfully, as members of Rotary, we are committed to working for peace. And never forget, peace is more, so much more, than the absence of war or armed conflict. Peace is freedom. Peace is healthy children and adults. Peace is clean water, sufficient food, education, human rights, dignity, clothing, housing. And most of all, peace is love. The late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, and I quote, "We must discover the power of love, the redemptive power of love. And when we discover that, we will be able to make of this old world a new world, for love is the only way." There is power in love. Don't underestimate it. Don't over-sentimentalize it. There is power in love. Power in love to help and heal when nothing else can. Power in love to lift up and liberate when nothing else will. Power in love to show us the way to live. And if you don't believe me, just stop. And to use a word we will hear a lot in Rotary this year, imagine. Imagine a world where love is the way. Imagine homes and families where love is the way. Imagine neighborhoods and communities where love is the way. Imagine businesses and commerce where love is the way. Imagine governments and nations where love is the way. Where love is the way, no child will go to bed hungry in this world ever again. Where love is the way, justice will flow like a mighty river. Where love is the way, poverty will become history. And when love is the way, there is room, plenty of room, for everyone. Because when love is the way, when peace is the way, we actually treat each other like we are family. And what better aspirations could we as Rotarians have? What greater hope could we as Rotarians give to this world than a sense of love and peace and family? As I've travelled around on a virtual basis over the past few months, I've often quoted the late US Senator Robert Kennedy, and I make no apologies for doing so again today. Kennedy, whilst addressing the University of Cape Town in South Africa in June 1966, said, and I quote, "Like it or not, we live in interesting times. They are times of danger and uncertainty, but they are also the most creative of any time in the history of mankind. And everyone here will ultimately judge themselves on the effort they have contributed to building a new world society and the extent to which their ideals and goals have shaped that effort." Well, 56 years on from Kennedy's address, in these current times of danger and uncertainty, let us recognise that they are also amongst the most creative of any time in the history of Rotary. Let us make sure we are judged on the effort we have contributed to rebuild our broken world and the extent our combined ideals and goals have shaped that effort, as we first imagine and then create a more peaceful world, utilising all the many tools in our Rotary toolbox. Change and peace must be partners in progress. Through change, we find innovation and hope. And in pursuit of peace, we build and protect our soul. And so, let me leave you with this wish. During next Rotary year, our organisation should reach new heights under your leadership. Be assured you have the fullest support of all those on your district teams, along with District Governors-elect Ian and Jed and Andy. I also pledge you my full support. I look forward to working alongside you to ensure we all do our best for the sakes of the people who need us most, to ensure we improve their lives and make the world a better place. Please grasp the opportunity you've been given to lead in your clubs with both hands. Be brave and be strong as you imagine Rotary, and above all, enjoy doing it. Each and every one of you is a credit to the badge you wear, and I am proud, very proud, to belong to the same organisation as you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gordon. And as usual, you covered just about every question that I've got here, so I'm not going to go on for too long. You will be also pleased to know that Rotary in this group is represented by people who are already welcoming in our people from the Ukraine. We have Luton Airport here, of course, and talking to people here, they're already working there, and they are already making use of the foundation chances to get monies in order to use that work and make it wider. So, sorry, that's not really a question, is it? That's
no, but it's a very important part, and you know, I can't thank the people enough who have provided tangible relief for the Ukrainian refugees. I mean, the foundation, we've raised just over $6 million already for the Disaster Relief Fund, but it's the people on the ground, it's the people who are opening their homes, it's the people who are filling vans and driving them across Europe to the borders of Poland and Ukraine, Moldova and Ukraine, And I will never be able to thank these people enough. And I know from the contacts I've got in Ukraine that they are extremely grateful for all that support as well.
Thank you. One of the other things that we've been talking about this weekend too, obviously besides membership, that's a given these days, but is about continuity. And you've talked about your work with Jennifer Jones and how you are looking forward to actually working with the person who comes after you. Can you just tell us a little bit about that, how that continuity really works and what the ground rules are for that continuity?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's not rocket science. That's the first thing I would say. I think what has happened in the past, and certainly as I have discovered since I came into this role, is that the president chain, if you like, the string of presidents, the line of presidents, have all worked in silos. And there's not been a huge amount of communication between them as to what they're planning for their year. And people are very protective of, as I said in my remarks, very protective of their particular year. So Jennifer and I mean, we meet very regularly, but we meet every 2 weeks. We have a meeting that we will bring my successor into just as soon as I say, as soon as he or she is identified. And we talk about the longer term, you know, we talk about more strategically and not about things that can get finished by next June, but by things that we can start by next June and might not even finish in 2 years' time. And of course, this is the great value of Rotary's action plan, is that we can start to plan out a bit longer and not just work in 1 year cycles. And I did that when I was the club president way back last century. We had a club continuity group that still exists to today. We had a district continuity group that still exists to today. And then when I was RIBI president, we had a continuity group, and that had to be fair, that's had 1 or 2 ups and downs over the years since then. But I'm delighted that there is so much more continuity now at Great Britain and Ireland level. And so, as I say, it's not rocket science. It's just a question of speaking to each other. Well, first of all, in the club environment, and identifying the succession. You know, succession planning is so important. Identifying your successors. I've been in the States. I was in the States most of March doing multi-district pets. And I was amazed how many presidents-elect I met that had discovered they were going to be president on the 1st of July, a week, 10 days before the PETS meeting. And it was literally the case, you know, they went to the bathroom at the wrong time, or they didn't go to the right meeting, and suddenly they found that they were president. But, you know, so get that succession planning, that chain in place. And I believe that clubs would really benefit from that going forward.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask you a personal question, because thank you very much indeed. The last time that I spoke to Gordon, it was 4:10 in the morning, and I can't even remember where you were, but you came on, and I think that's dedication. Today we're not far off it. It's a little bit later in the morning, but how has becoming RI a nominee changed your life and the life of your family?
Well, first of all, it has changed our lives, changed my life, it's changed the family's life as well. I would have to say it's nothing that I didn't expect in terms of there's been no real curveballs thrown at me that I didn't realize I would have. You know, I knew reasonably well what it entailed. I've been describing it as a full-time job without the monthly paycheck, and that is exactly what it is. You know, as you know, I gave up full-time dental practice just coming on 5 years ago. I thought I was just going to go out to live the quiet life in the country and commune with nature and all the rest. But it was not to be. And I have to say, I'm thoroughly enjoying it up until this point. So it has changed. It's meant, you know, now that travel's possible again, being away from home quite a lot. again, something that we knew was likely to happen. I'm very lucky that Heather and many of the people in the room will know Heather. Heather is extremely supportive, always has been very supportive. She's, you know, bleeds Rotary. Our family are equally supportive. I think they've got their eye on a few trips to Chicago to see us when we actually have to start living here on a slightly more regular basis come July. But they've been great as well. And technology is wonderful. You know, we've got 2 young grandchildren, and one of the things that I will regret is that we won't see an awful lot of them maybe over the next couple of years. But as I thought about that, I also thought that, you know, if you want to try and make the world a better place for your grandchildren, what greater opportunity do you have than to have the opportunity to be a part of Rotary? And it's a commitment that I'm prepared to make. I'll miss them more than they miss me, in all honesty. But thanks to technology, we can keep in touch with FaceTime, and videos regularly pop up on WhatsApp and things like that. So, and thoroughly enjoying it. And hopefully that'll continue to be the case over the next couple of years.
Gordon, thank you so much. You are actually speaker before lunch, so it's good that everybody is listening attentively to you still. But thank you once again for coming on, and we wish you every success in the next little while. And from everybody in the room, I'm sure we join you in saying thank you for coming on board. Thank you.
Not at all. My pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and thank you all very much for the commitment you're making, because you're making a big commitment too.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gordon. You can go and have your breakfast now. I'm sure you're ready for it.
Well, at one point I thought I might go back to bed, but I don't think I will.
Oh, yeah. Well, the bed looks so neatly made there that it'd be a shame for. Yeah,
Are you impressed? Yeah. I made the bed because when I first sat down in front of the screen, I thought that bed looks terrible. So I've made my own bed this morning. Okay.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody. Bye.